Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video on the channel today. It is Monday. Obviously, that means we're going to be doing another mock draft. Just want to say, sorry I haven't been uploading very frequently. Life has been busy. I've been working on a couple other side projects, but don't worry. I'm absolutely going to keep up the content on this channel. I totally appreciate all the support you guys have been showing. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start the mock draft. So no question, no debate. Caleb Williams will be a Chicago Bear by the night of April 25th. There is not many more things that I think are more guaranteed in life. I think Caleb Williams is guaranteed to be a Bear more than the sun is guaranteed to go up tomorrow morning, right? I really do. I would be, there's not a word in the English language to describe my level of shock if Caleb Williams isn't wearing blue and orange come next summer. We have the Washington Commanders. Now, pick 2, this is, I think, where it gets interesting. There's the debate between Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels. As you guys know, I think Drake Maye is the better of those two quarterbacks. Jayden Daniels, to me, though, seems like the current betting favorite. And since I don't have any insider information of my own, and I doubt that the Commanders are going to make the right choice because they haven't in recent years, Jayden Daniels seems to be their quarterback. At pick number 3, there's been some talk of the Patriots trading down. There's been maybe rumors of them taking Marvin Harrison. But if Drake Maye's on the board here, I just don't know how you could pass it up. A guy that would be the first overall pick in most drafts falls into your lap at pick number 3. That's a no-brainer for me right there. Now is where I think we start to get a little interesting. So Arizona's sitting at 4. They have a really good opportunity here to say, hey, we're pick 4. The 3 teams in front of us are all going quarterbacks. We are not going to take a quarterback. We have Kyler Murray. We're going to have basically our pick of whoever the fuck we want. That player, to me, is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., the best receiver in this class. Now, I know some people have mocked Malik Nabers. I think the consensus gap between Malik Nabers and Marvin Harrison has shrunk in a lot of people's minds. I think that's just a victim of prospect fatigue. I think Marvin Harrison is one of the best receiver prospects of my lifetime. It's hard to find a fault in his game. And again, I think Arizona would be blessed to have him with the 4th overall pick. Now the Chargers at pick 5. And I'll put a pin in this for just a second, and I'll come back to it. You might notice what I'm about to talk about. But I don't know if they'll have a lot of trade partners to trade down at 5. And, truthfully, you're looking at it and you're like, I doubt New York trades up a pick. Tennessee probably won't trade up because their guy will be there at 7. We'll skip number 8 for a second. The Bears probably won't trade up. They don't have draft picks this year. The Jets aren't going to take a quarterback. The Falcons, again, we'll skip them. And then you look at number 12 and number 13. I really, really, really doubt that the Chargers would trade a top 5 pick to a division rival. That just doesn't sound feasible to me. So then you're kind of getting past the territory of, well, oh shit, like, they're dropping down 10 picks. They would need an absolute haul, and I think that's a bit too expensive for a lot of teams. So I think at pick 5, the Chargers stick and pick, and who they pick is wide receiver Malik Nabers out of LSU. Now, you can absolutely take your pick, whether or not you prefer Rome Odunze, Malik Nabers, different flavors of wide receiver completely. But in my opinion, I think Malik Nabers would fit what the Chargers want to do more. I think he's more of a vertical threat, which is what I think the Chargers need. Quentin Johnston is or can be kind of your big body receiver, and the Chargers have kind of lacked, I think, explosive receiver play for a few years. Like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, when he was on the field, were good, but I don't know if they're necessarily killing you down the field like Malik Nabers has the ability to do so. Then that would leave the Giants at number 6, and again, they are just so desperate for receivers. I think that they feel very lucky to take Rome Odunze at pick 6. And then at pick 7, again, this is kind of what I was talking about with the Titans, where if their guy is going to fall to them anyways, why trade up? Joe Alt is going to come in and help improve that offensive line for the Tennessee Titans. They took Peter Skoronski last year. They have a new offensive head coach. They've invested in receiver with Calvin Ridley. They signed Tony Pollard in free agency. They want to make Will Levis they want to make his life as easy as possible, and getting a guy like Joe Alt is that guy. The best offensive lineman in this draft, in my opinion. Again, there's a little prospect fatigue. People argue with Olu, whatever. I think it's Joe Alt. I think it's pretty comfortably Joe Alt, and they get him at 7. That's a damn good deal. So you might be sitting here and you're saying, Mike, did the Falcons And Vikings make a trade because their picks are swapped. The Vikings now have the 8th pick. The Falcons now have the 11th pick. What gives? Well, there was a report that came out today that since the NFL is investigating the Falcons for tampering with their acquisition of Kirk Cousins, that potentially, this is according to Mike Florio, potentially one of the punishments could be Minnesota and Atlanta swapping first-round picks. Now, this happened last year with Arizona with Jonathan Gannon. They tampered during the week of the Super Bowl, and the Eagles and Cardinals kind of worked something out, and Eagles were able to add more draft capital. Now, to this degree, I don't know if it would be that extreme because a top 8 pick is extremely valuable, and obviously the Vikings would absolutely love to jump up 3 spots for free. But I think just for the sake of having fun, just for the sake of playing devil's advocate, we're going to run with that in this mock draft. So if the Vikings are sitting at 8, again, that's why I don't think you would want to make the move up to 5. 11's a little different because there's plenty of other opportunity for teams to jump in. But when you're at pick 8, and you know that the top 3 guys are going to go, Marvin and Malik are probably going to go. Even Rome Odunze could be gone. Joe Alt's going to be gone at this point. You sitting there and you're like, all right, we're just going to take the guy that we were going to take anyways if we were going to trade up. Now we don't have to do that. We can keep our extra draft picks. J.J. McCarthy, welcome to Minnesota. Like I said, he's a local kid. He grew up about an hour north of me. Actually competed against him, and he's good. I mean, no shit, right? He's going to be a fucking first round pick. He's good. But then that leaves the Vikings in a good spot because then they also have pick 23 as well. They can keep that first rounder. We're also getting the quarterback that they want. All right, let's go on to Chicago. Now, Chicago is a team to me that could definitely trade down. Like I said, they have what they lack in quantity of picks. They definitely make up for in quality because they have the pick, the first pick and the 9th pick, which is great. But again, you don't have a quantity of picks like you might want. So the Bears could definitely trade down here. However, if they stand pat, a team that now I think would be in good contention for Dallas Turner would be the Chicago Bears. I believe that he's going to be the first edge rusher off the board. Is that correct or not? I don't know. A lot of people seem to think that Dallas Turner has the highest upside in this class, which I could definitely see. And again, if you're the Bears and you want to pair somebody with Montez Sweat, who was a freaking monster post-trade deadline last year, I think that's really good. You get Caleb Williams. If you can leave the draft with Caleb Williams and a good pass rusher, you are setting yourself up to be really, really good for years to come. Then you got the New York Jets. Now, I've pushed back on this decision, and I've gone back and forth, and I'm like, I don't know. I think Brock Bowers makes a lot of sense here, right? They don't have a tight end. It adds another receiving threat for Aaron Rodgers in that Jets offense. They filled their hole with offensive tackle in free agency. Again, are these Band-Aid solutions? Yes. Would Olu Fashanu, I think, thrive if he could kind of sit for a year and then become, blossom into a really, really special offensive tackle? I think so. But the Jets, I kind of understand why they decided with a Band-Aid solution for the tackles. They're in a win-now mode, right? They probably have another year or 2 of Aaron Rodgers. They don't really have time for Olu Fashanu to sit and develop for a couple of years. They need to be as good as possible as soon as possible. Brock Bowers does that for you. He's a matchup nightmare. He's a true unicorn at the tight end position. And again, if Nathaniel Hackett can utilize him correctly, I think the Jets offense will be really good. Now we go to the Falcons, 3 picks below what they are normally slotted to be. Now again, I would have had them taking Dallas Turner at pick 8, most definitely. And I think the philosophy stays the same. They're still going to go with a defensive end, and that guy is Laiatu Latu out of UCLA. Another really, really good pass rusher, in my opinion. A guy that I think would fit very well. Now for the Broncos, you're kind of in a shitty spot because in the first 11 picks, 4 quarterbacks have gone, and the Broncos desperately need a quarterback. But I hope that they don't severely overdraft Bo Nix here, and they go with Olu Fashanu off the tackle out of Penn State. Again, they just need good players. They need a lot of good players at a lot of different spots. Offensive tackle is one of them. They take him to replace Mike McGlinchey, or as Grant Cohn calls him, Mike McFloppy. Let's go to number 13 in the Oakland Raiders. And I don't know why I feel this way. I just have this gut feeling in my chest that Michael Penix Jr. is going to be a Raider, right? Gardner Minshew was the Band-Aid solution at quarterback. He signed, a 2-year, $25 million deal. That is dirt cheap compared to what quarterbacks make. I doubt that he has any type of security. If they really fall in love with Michael Penix, they've seen what he can do with an elite receiver. They have Devontae Adams, who I think is awesome. I don't think is awesome. He's universally known as being awesome. He's a stud. If they think that they're a quarterback away, I think Michael Penix would be a very, very intriguing pick at pick number 13. I think Michael Penix is definitely a first rounder. Top half of the first round, I think, would be a little ballsy. Not necessarily good ballsy or bad ballsy, just, hey, all right, you're picking Michael Penix. Let's see what you do here. Pick number 14 for the Raiders. Again, this is a pick that I just kind of struggle with because I'm just like, they just kind of need everything. Talisi Fuaga, to me, makes a lot of sense. He's a guy that's very versatile on the offensive line. Their tackle situation is big yikes. Trevor Penning is a bust, and Ryan Ramczyk is probably on his last legs as a quality tackle in this league, unfortunately. So it would not hurt them to reinvest in tackle. I think Fuaga is an excellent addition. At pick 15 for the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to switch it up. I'm actually not going to give them corner like I have been in recent mocks. I'm going to go ahead and give them Jared Verse, the edge rusher from Florida State. I think they could use some juice in their pass rushing room, get after the quarterback a little bit more. And again, now you're going to have to play C.J. Stroud twice a year, Trevor Lawrence twice a year, Will Levis if he turns out to be good. That's, 3 good quarterbacks in your division. You need guys that can go after him and create more opportunities for your offense. Now again, eagle-eyed viewers might be saying, hey, aren't the Seahawks supposed to pick here at pick 16? Well, obviously, if you look, they're at pick 25 in replacement of what the Packers should be. I have the Seahawks trading down. Now, I think the Seahawks just make the most sense to trade down. That's just for a multitude of reasons. A, John Schneider, that's kind of his thing. It's kind of his MO during the draft. Like, he's always going to take an opportunity to trade down if it presents itself. So that's number one. Number two, the Seahawks have a lot of needs and not a lot of picks. They don't have a second-round pick, which I know obviously we're not going into the second round, but that would be included in the trade. Green Bay would send their pick, I believe it's pick 41, to Seattle. Honestly, I just think that makes sense. And the Packers, if you're going to trade up, I think you're definitely going to go with a corner. Quinyon Mitchell is still on the board. I'm sorry, Terrion Arnold. I know. But if the Packers are trading up, it's for a guy, I think, with a high ceiling. Who knows how long, Alexander's still going to be their corner room. They have a new defensive coordinator. Their defense is what really let them down last year. I think they made major strides on offense. Jordan Love was fantastic. They need to get that defense back in check. I think Joe Barry kind of held them back a little bit. So they take a big swing. They trade up with my Seahawks, and they get pick 16. Number 17 with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they need help on the offensive line, both in the interior of the offensive line and in the exterior. I think a guy that could solve both of those issues, not at once, obviously, would be Troy Fattenu out of Washington. A lot of people project him as a guard. I think he could be a fine tackle, but I do think that, in an ideal world, he's probably playing right guard, left guard, whatever. Regardless, he'll help out the Jaguars tremendously. Trevor Lawrence, some of that offensive line play last year was holy shit bad. So obviously you want to keep Trevor Lawrence upright. That's, a huge priority. I think Troy Fattenu would help solve that problem. And I think that's just a good pick, to get pick 17. It's not a sexy pick, but it's a necessary pick. Good teams have good offensive linemen, in case you haven't noticed. Pick 18, Cincinnati Bengals. Now, they're a team, I think, that could go a few different directions. Could see them go with Terrion Arnold. I could see them go with one of these tackles right here. Probably would be a little rich to go with Brian Thomas Jr., but I'm going to go ahead and gift the Bengals a defensive tackle. I'm going to go with Byron Murphy. Some people have him going as high as number 9 to the Bears, which I think is a little ridiculous. But regardless, he's most definitely first-round talent. Him and Johnny Newton are going to be competing for the top interior defensive lineman in this draft class. I think the Bengals go with him. Now the Rams, honestly, we might see back-to-back defensive tackles. With the departure of Aaron Donald, I think that it just makes the most sense. You got to get a game disruptor. You got to get a guy that can. Nobody's going to replace Aaron Donald. We know this. Aaron Donald is a once-in-a-franchise level player on the defensive side. He's just a game wrecker. You're not going to replace Aaron Donald, but you want to. What's that quote in Moneyball where they're trying to replace Jason Giambi and they basically say we can't replace Jason Giambi, but we want to replace Jason Giambi's production, right? Maybe that made sense. Maybe that didn't. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass here. You guys kind of get what I mean, I hope. But they go with Johnny Newton. Pittsburgh Steelers. I really just do love the selection of Brian Thomas at this point in the draft. I think it's the perfect spot to take a guy like Brian Thomas. And I think they need receivers like really badly. So I think that that works out. Miami Dolphins, they could definitely go with one of those defensive tackles if they're still available. In this scenario, they're not. I probably would have them going with corner. Terrion Arnold, I think, is probably in contention for corner one in this class with Quinyon Mitchell, although I think the upside with Quinyon Mitchell is a little bit higher, probably why he goes a little bit higher. And then for the Eagles, I actually like a guy by the name of Cooper DeJean. They need defensive backs. They need a lot of them, actually, truthfully. And, you know, a guy like Vic Fangio coming into Philadelphia, I think that could be a really, really interesting pairing. Cooper DeJean. Now, I know, you know, they already have Blankenship, so you're really pushing it with 2 white DBs. I get it. But Cooper DeJean, he's the Lisan Al-Gaib, bro. He's the exception. Now we got the Minnesota Vikings back up at pick 23. As you know, pick 8, they went with J.J. McCarthy. They got their quarterback. Now you're thinking, okay, what are they going to do on the other side of the ball? Or are they going to go with an offensive player again? Now, personally, it says they need wide receiver. Scratch that. They have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. They're completely fine. I do think they need corners, though. A guy like Nate Wiggins is interesting. I think that he would be a menace in Brian Flores' scheme, because you think about Brian Flores' scheme, right? It's blitz heavy. It's a lot of man coverage. Nate Wiggins is fast. He's got long arms. He could really, I think, make a lot of plays in Brian Flores' system. He's a guy that's, I think, uniquely fitted to cause havoc in that system. I think they'd love to get their hands on a guy like Nate Wiggins. For the Cowboys at pick 24, truthfully, like, there's just a lot that they could do here. They could go with an offensive tackle. They could go with a center. They could go with Jackson Powers Johnson. Honestly, I think they could go with an interior guy like Graham Barton. You know, I have my opinions on whether or not I think, you know, Graham Barton or Jackson Powers Johnson. Who do you want? What do you do? Whatever. But truthfully, like, you can't go wrong. I think, honestly, in this scenario, we could see them going back-to-back. Graham Barton, Jackson Powers Johnson, kind of flip-flop them. The Seahawks have major, major holes at interior of their offensive line. And before you smartasses in the comments say, well, they just signed Laken Tomlinson, he graded out as, like, one of the worst interior offensive linemen last year. Like, that signing was literally just so the Seahawks have a playable guard next year. God forbid they don't draft one, which they should. But I wouldn't be too excited about Laken Tomlinson. This isn't like, you know, 2020 with the 49ers or 2021 whenever he was really good. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, again, I've been loving the pick of Chop Robinson. But you know what? I'm actually going to switch it up. I'm going to go with Kool-Aid McKinstry, get them some help in the corner department. You know, they traded one of their guys to the Lions this year. They might be a little thin there. I think they could use an improvement with a young guy, young buck, Kool-Aid McKinstry. Pick 27, Arizona Cardinals. Now, I have a theory that they're going to move Paris Johnson over to left tackle, even though they signed Jonah Williams, so it's a little complicated. I think that in pick 27, you know, you've gone with Marvin Harrison. I think you probably want to address defense. Chop Robinson is a guy. You need help on defense. Obviously, their defense is really bad. And Jonathan Gannon understands the importance of defensive linemen ever since his time in Philadelphia. With the 28th pick in the draft, the Buffalo Bills, I think one of my favorite picks is Adonai Mitchell. They do not have to trade up in this draft to get a really, really, really good wide receiver to replace Stephon Diggs. Then you think about it, oh, shit, they have that extra second-round pick next year. I think that was a great move for them. They're able to land a stud nonetheless. Detroit Lions pick 29. Now, there is a guy, this might be a bit of a head-ass take. But I think they go with J.T. Latham and swing him into guard to replace Jonah Jackson. Is it ballsy? I think it is, but I think it works out. At the Ravens, I think that they are excited to take the opportunity to coach up Amaris Mims. Their tackle spots are a little weak right now, truthfully. You know, Morgan Moses is I'm sorry, not Morgan Moses. They got Ronnie Staley. You know, he ain't that good. And I think they have a hole at right tackle right now. I know Voorhees is going to come back at some point. I don't know if he's going to play guard or tackle. I'll have to ask Makana about that. But Amaris Mims, I think, would be a very interesting developmental project for them. The 49ers at pick 31, I think, also got to go with an offensive lineman, Tyler Guyton. It's not sexy, but outside of left tackle, I think the Niners have a lot of holes in their offensive line. And then for the Kansas City Chiefs, because why the fuck not, give them the fastest dude to ever run the 40-yard dash. Let's look at the full results. This is my mock draft. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace out.